Before starting the news, we would like to hear your opinion on the following poll. Today's question: do you support the death penalty? Kindly press the like button and comment your answer in the comment section given below. We are anxious to hear from you. Now let's move on to the news. Breaking: state of emergency declared. I can think of no better example of the old axiom, when you need a job done right you have to do it yourself, than this story. And let's hope it has legs, because every state and federal leader in the country needs to take notice of it, because the future has arrived. On Friday, the New York Times published a story about a civilian-led militia group, which, believe it or not, Fox News labeled right-wing, is rounding up illegal aliens, holding them at gunpoint, and alerting the U.S. Border Patrol so agents can come to pick them up. The Times reported, a right-wing militia group operating in southern New Mexico has begun stopping groups of migrant families and detaining them at gunpoint before handing them over to Border Patrol agents, raising tension over the tactics of armed vigilantes along the border between the United States and Mexico. Members of the group, which calls itself the United Constitutional Patriots, filmed several of their actions in recent days, including the detention this week of a group of about 200 migrants who had recently crossed the border near Sunland Park, NM, with the intention of seeking asylum. They uploaded videos to social media of exhausted-looking migrant families, blinking in the darkness in the glare of what appeared to be the militia's spotlights. Professed militias have long operated along the border with attempts to curb the flow of undocumented migrants into the United States. But targeting the recent influx of families, who are legally allowed to request asylum and often quickly surrender to Border Patrol agents, is raising tension with human rights activists in this part of the West. The Times' obvious attempt to paint the militia group as the bad people instead of those poor migrant families who are breaking our laws by entering the country illegally aside, the group's effort has been duly noted by an unappreciative Democratic New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. In a statement to the Times cited by Fox News, she said, "It should go without saying that regular citizens have no authority to arrest or detain anyone." She added that it is completely unacceptable that migrants be menaced or threatened upon entering the U.S. It should be noted that upon entering office earlier this year, Grisham ordered the couple hundred National Guard troops deployed to the U.S.-Mexico border by her Republican predecessor to stand down and go home, leaving the state's boundary vulnerable at a time when tens of thousands of migrants are practically bum-rushing our borders to get inside, where they then abuse our asylum process. There could be no better Democrat example of an open border policy. The decision was wholly political, not based on practicality or reality. In signing the order withdrawing the Guard troops, she claimed that the very legitimate national emergency along the border was nothing but a Trump-fabricated charade. "I reject the federal contention that there exists an overwhelming national security crisis at the southern border," Lujan Grisham said at the time, adding that the area has some of the safest communities in the country. Except that they aren't. Because if Lujan Grisham were correct, then citizen militia groups wouldn't be rounding up illegal border crossers by the hundreds. How safe are communities that aren't defended by the governor of the state? This comes on the heels of pleas and at least one threat of legal action against state leaders from New Mexico jurisdictions. New Mexico's second-largest city, Las Cruces, is appealing to their citizens for donations of food and personal hygiene products as Border Patrol and ICE officials drop off more asylum-seeking migrants at shelters and churches in the city that have been housing prior arrivals. Otero County, which borders El Paso, Texas, unanimously declared a state of emergency Wednesday, calling on Lujan Grisham to wait for it. Deploy the National Guard to reopen the Customs and Border Patrol checkpoints that were closed in March. The Alamogordo Daily News reported. The declaration notes the need for open checkpoints to stop drugs and illegal activity at the border. If this demand is not met by the state of New Mexico in 1 week's time, the county of Otero will take action itself to provide security and safety and well-being for the people in this county, Otero County Commission Chairman Couy Griffin said. The county is also threatening legal action. Lujan Grisham's response? Her office dismissed the plea, saying, stupidly, that the National Guard does not and would not operate federal checkpoints. Well, no fooling, but the Guard would provide an armed presence and an added level of protection for citizens who are paying for them. This Democrat tone deafness, which is primarily caused by an irrational, unhinged hatred of President Trump, is why the United Constitutional Patriots are now patrolling the New Mexico border. They are there because Lujan Grisham is refusing to do her job. Mark our words, the more Democrats refuse to perform their sworn duty to protect and serve the people who elected them, the more we're going to see civilians step up and fill the security void they have created along the border. The moral of the story is Americans are sick of being invaded and they're going to take matters into their own hands. Hide and watch. God bless. When you share to your friends, you greatly help distribute our content. Please take a moment and consider sharing this article with your friends and family. Thank you, we appreciate it. Sharing is caring. Kindly help us to distribute our content so others can acknowledge this too, and support us in our mission to make America great again. Thanks for watching.